In a jaw-dropping showdown that no one saw coming, a smug and overconfident Donald Trump strutted back onto Jimmy Kimmel's stage, thinking he could bully his way through another night of spin and family fairy tales, only for the cocky president to get completely exposed when Jimmy calmly dropped a bombshell stack of documents that ripped apart every lie Trump had just spent 20 minutes desperately defending, leaving the most powerful man in the world red-faced, sweating, and unraveling live on national television. The news dropped like a bomb in FIRT 2026. Donald Trump was coming back to Jimmy Kimmel Live. Social media exploded. Every news channel ran the headline non-stop. People couldn't believe it. The last time Trump sat on that couch, he stormed off the set when Jimmy started asking tough questions about his family. Now, here he was, the sitting president, agreeing to return to the same stage. In the studio that night, the audience buzzed with nervous energy. You could hear whispers everywhere. "Think he'll walk out again?" one guy said. "Last time, it was all about Melania and Barron. This is going to be wild." The house lights dimmed and the familiar theme music hit. The crowd clapped, but it wasn't the usual easy applause. It felt sharper, tighter. Everyone leaned forward a little. Then he walked out. Trump stepped through the curtain with that famous, confident grin plastered on his face. He waved to the audience like he owned the place, but his eyes flicked left and right real quick, checking the room. He shook hands with the crew members hard, almost too hard, slapping a couple of them on the back. "Great to be back," he said, loud enough for the mics to catch it. Jimmy stood up from behind his desk, smiling that calm, late-night host smile. They shook hands. Trump sat down, crossed his legs, and leaned back like he was completely relaxed. For the first few minutes, it felt almost normal. Jimmy threw out some easy jokes about politics and the election. Trump fired right back with a couple of his classic one-liners. The crowd laughed. Trump even hit them with a quick list of things he said he got done in the White House: border stuff, economy numbers, the usual hits. He kept it short, kept it punchy, and the audience clapped along. Then, Jimmy leaned forward just a bit, still smiling, and said it. "You know, Mr. President, last time you were here you left a little early, walked right off the stage." The words hung there. The studio went dead quiet for half a second. Trump let out a big, loud laugh, the kind that fills the whole room. He threw his head back and slapped his knee like it was the funniest thing he'd ever heard, but his right hand gripped the arm of the chair so tight his knuckles turned white. The smile stayed on his face, but his eyes locked onto Jimmy's and didn't let go. Jimmy nodded with that easy smile of his, like they were just two guys chatting over coffee. "Speaking of family, Mr. President, how's Melania doing these days? And Barron, he must be getting so tall. Ivanka, too. How's everyone holding up with all the craziness in Washington?" The question sounded friendly enough, almost casual, but the whole studio felt the temperature drop a notch. Trump straightened up in his chair, still smiling, but his shoulders tensed just a little. He jumped right in. "Melania is fantastic, Jimmy. Strongest first lady we've ever had." "Barron? That kid is a superstar. Let me tell you about his last birthday. We had a quiet family dinner at Mar-a-Lago, just us. Melania made his favorite cake, and we all sat around laughing for hours. Real family time, beautiful time." Trump leaned forward, eyes lighting up as he told the story. "And remember that family trip we took to Palm Beach a couple years back? Ivanka brought the grandkids, we played golf, swam in the ocean. Perfect, normal American family stuff. Nobody can say otherwise." But he didn't stop there. The words started coming faster. "Look, on March 15th that year, we flew together on Air Force One. Melania was right there the whole time. Then, on June 12th, we had that big public event in Florida. Pictures everywhere. Everybody saw it. Ivanka was standing next to me at the rally on July 4th. Barron was at school events, normal kid things. I've got the flight logs, the photos, the schedules. Everything checks out. People try to make up stories, but the facts are right there." He kept listing dates, times, and places like he was reading from an invisible notebook. Every little detail poured out, one after another, building a wall of words. The audience, which had been laughing and clapping earlier, went strangely quiet. A few people shifted in their seats, but nobody whispered. The laughs died down completely. They were just watching now, staring at the stage with tight faces. Jimmy sat back, nodding slowly, never interrupting, never pushing hard. He just listened with that calm look on his face, letting Trump keep talking. The longer it went on, the heavier the silence in the room felt, like everyone could sense something tightening around the conversation. Trump's voice got louder, more insistent. He jabbed a finger in the air for emphasis. I'm telling you, Jimmy, there's nothing to these rumors. Zero. I've lived this life. I know exactly what happened every single day. His hand gripped the chair again, tighter this time. Then he looked straight into the camera, jaw set, and said it loud and clear. I will prove it to all of you, every single person watching. I'm going to set the record straight right here tonight. The studio stayed dead silent. Jimmy gave one slow nod, eyes locked on Trump. Trump didn't even wait for Jimmy to follow up. He leaned forward, eyes wide, and dove straight in. Let me tell you exactly how it went with Melania's pregnancy. She was right there in New York, doctors checking every week. Barron was born healthy, strong, perfect timing. I was at the hospital, pictures prove it. Then school years. Barron was at Columbia Grammar, normal kid, great grades, playing sports. Vanka was out there every day doing events with me, standing right beside me at rallies, smiling for the cameras. I've got the dates. May 2005 checkup, November 2005 trip to Florida, April 2006 public dinner in Palm Beach. Everything lines up. Nobody can twist this. He kept going, faster now. This is the truth. This is the truth, Jimmy. Melania was there every single month. Barron's first day of school, I dropped him off myself. Ivanka flew with us on Air Force One multiple times, July 2017, October 2018, March 2019. I remember every flight. This is the truth. People make up lies, but the records don't lie. I've lived it. I know it better than anyone. His voice rose higher, words spilling out quicker, almost tripping over each other. He jabbed his finger in the air with every point, repeating, "This is the truth," like a hammer hitting the same nail again and again. The audience sat completely still. No one moved, no coughs, no whispers, just heavy silence as they watched the president talk faster and faster. Jimmy waited for a tiny pause, then asked in a calm, almost friendly voice, "So just to clarify, there was about a 9-month gap between some of those public appearances and the pregnancy timeline you mentioned earlier. How did that work with the travel schedule?" Trump froze. For 2 full seconds, he said nothing. His mouth opened, then closed. His eyes flicked to the side like he was searching for the right words. The studio felt the crack. That tiny hesitation hit like a punch. Everyone saw it. Then he snapped back hard, forcing a big smile. "Let me tell you a real story, Jimmy. One night at Mar-a-Lago, Barron couldn't sleep. He came to me, just the two of us on the balcony. I put my arm around him and said, 'Son, we're going to do big things together.' We talked for over an hour about life, about being strong. That's the real bond. That's what matters. Beautiful moment between father and son. Nobody can take that away." He told the story with extra emotion, voice cracking just a bit on purpose, trying to pull everyone back into the warm family picture and away from that awkward silence. But the damage was done. Trump wiped sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand, breathing a little heavier. He looked straight at the camera, trying to sound strong. "I've prepared for all of this. I've got everything ready, every detail." The audience didn't clap. They just stared. Jimmy leaned forward slowly, placing both elbows on the desk. The easy smile he'd kept all night faded into something sharper, more serious. The studio lights suddenly felt hotter. He looked Donald Trump dead in the eyes and said in a calm, steady voice that cut through the tension like a knife, "Mr. President, I think it's time to show something. The entire room went dead silent. You could hear the hum of the cameras. No one coughed. No one shifted. Every person in the audience leaned forward at the same time. Jimmy reached under his desk and pulled out a thick folder. He opened it and held up a stack of papers, turning them toward the cameras so the audience and viewers at home could see the headings clearly. These are verified medical summaries and travel timelines about Barron's parentage. The dates, locations, and records don't line up with what you've been telling us tonight. Not even close. Trump froze solid in his chair. His body went completely still. His eyes locked onto those papers like they were burning holes in his hands. For several long, painful seconds, he didn't blink, didn't speak, didn't even breathe. His confident grin from earlier completely disappeared. His jaw clenched so hard the muscles stood out on his face. The man who had spent the last hour dominating the conversation with stories and dates suddenly looked like someone had punched him in the gut right there on live TV. The shock was written all over him. Wide eyes, slightly open mouth, frozen posture. The whole studio felt it. This wasn't just another question. This was a direct hit. Then, the explosion came. Trump shot halfway up from his chair, his face turning deep red in seconds. He jabbed a thick finger straight at Jimmy, voice roaring through the studio. "This is fake news. Total bullshit. You set me up, Jimmy. This is a witch hunt, a disgrace, the worst ambush I've ever seen." His voice got louder with every word, bouncing off the walls. "Those documents are phony, completely made up, just like all the lies they've been printing about me for years. You think you can sit there with some papers and take me down? Wrong. This is rigged from the beginning." He was breathing hard, chest rising and falling fast. His hand shook as he kept pointing. "You're part of the problem, Jimmy. The fake media trying to destroy a good family. This is a setup, a cheap shot." Trump's voice cracked with raw anger. The calm, in-control president from the first half of the show was gone. Now, it was pure fury pouring out in real time. Jimmy didn't flinch. He stayed seated, completely composed, holding the papers steady in his hands. His voice stayed low and even. "If you believe these are fake, Mr. President, then let the viewers see the truth for themselves. We can go through every page right now. Let them decide." The words hung heavy in the air. Trump dropped back down into his chair hard, his big body landing with a thud. His chest heaved up and down as he tried to catch his breath. Loud, angry breathing filled the microphone. Sweat glistened on his forehead. His hands gripped the arms of the chair so tight the leather creaked. The audience sat in stunned silence, eyes wide, some with their mouths open. Then Trump slammed his hand on the desk and shot forward, eyes blazing with fury. "Deep state. This is all deep state garbage, Jimmy. You're working with them, aren't you? The same people who've been after me from day one." He reached into his suit jacket and pulled out a thick envelope he had clearly prepared. "You want proof? Here's real proof." He yanked out several large glossy photos and waved them at the cameras. "Look at these. Me, Melania, Barron at Christmas 2006. Here's my personal diary entries from the hospital stay, the flights, the family dinners. I wrote everything down myself. These dates match perfectly. Your papers are fake. Mine are real." He was breathing hard, slapping the photos down one by one. "See? This is what actual evidence looks like, not some made-up deep state bullshit you're trying to spring on me." Jimmy stayed calm. He picked up a small remote and pressed a button. A large screen behind them lit up. "Actually, Mr. President, let's hear from someone who was there." A short video started playing, a verified former staff member from the Trump household, face blurred for protection, but voice clear and steady. The woman looked straight into the camera and said, "I worked for the family in 2005 and 2006. Mr. Trump's timeline about Melania's pregnancy and travel doesn't match what I saw. There were long periods when Mrs. Trump was not traveling with him, and the medical schedule was different from what he just described 2 minutes ago." The audience let out a loud, collective gasp. Several people covered their mouths. A few whispered, "Oh my God!" The video hit like a second bomb, directly blowing up the stories Trump had just told. Trump exploded out of his chair. I stood straight up, pointing wildly at the screen. "Turn that off! That's a liar! A paid liar!" His voice dropped into a low, angry growl. "She doesn't know anything. The person who really knows the truth is—" He caught himself mid-sentence, eyes widening for a split second in panic. He clamped his mouth shut, breathing heavily through his nose. That near slip hung in the air like smoke. Everyone in the studio felt how close he had come to saying something dangerous. He stayed standing, chest heaving, finger still pointed at the screen. "This is rigged. All of it." Jimmy didn't wait. He slid another folder across the desk. "We also have leaked travel logs from that period, plus a summary from the former doctor who treated the family. The dates show clear gaps, weeks where the public appearances and medical records don't line up with your version at all. Would you like to explain these contradictions?" The new evidence landed even harder. Trump's face went from red to purple. He spun toward Jimmy, leaning over the desk, voice rising into a near shout. "You pathetic little hack. You think you're smart sitting there with your cheap gotcha moments? You're a joke, Jimmy. A low-rated nobody trying to destroy a real family because you can't stand strong people. This is the most disgusting ambush I've ever seen in my life." His voice cracked as he screamed the last words. The entire studio went dead silent. No gasps, no whispers, just pure, stunned quiet. Trump stood there shaking, then dropped back into his chair hard. His hands trembled visibly on the armrests. Sweat rolled down his temples. His eyes were wild, breathing loud and ragged into the microphone. Then, Trump completely lost it. His face twisted with rage as he slammed both hands on the desk and rose halfway out of his chair again. "You're destroying my family, Jimmy," he screamed, his voice cracking and breaking. "You're a sick man doing this on live television, trying to tear apart a good, beautiful family just for ratings." He spun toward the audience, jabbing his finger wildly at them. "And you people are letting this happen, sitting there watching this garbage. This is what the fake media does. They lie, they cheat, they smear." His voice got louder and hoarser with every word, spit flying as he shouted. The raw anger poured out of him like a flood. There was no control left, no polished answers, just pure fury exploding on stage. Jimmy stayed rock solid in his seat, completely unfazed. He waited for the shouting to pause for half a second, then asked in that same calm, steady voice, "Mr. President, what is the final truth here? Just tell the American people the truth." That was it. The final trigger. Trump erupted like a volcano. He shot straight up from his chair, the loudest and most explosive he had been all night. He slapped the desk hard with an open palm, not enough to break anything, but loud enough for the microphones to boom. "This is the biggest hoax I've ever seen," he roared, pointing straight at Jimmy with a shaking finger. "The biggest scam. You're a total fraud. This whole thing is a setup from the deep state and you're their puppet. I've never seen anything so disgusting in my entire life." His face was beet red, veins bulging in his neck, eyes wild with fury. This was the strongest explosion yet, pure, unfiltered rage pouring out in front of millions. He didn't wait for a response. Trump stormed away from the chair, marching toward the side of the stage with heavy, angry steps. His shoulders were squared, fists clenched at his sides. Halfway to the exit curtain, he suddenly spun around one last time, face still burning with anger. "I will prove all of this later," he shouted back at the studio. "You haven't heard the last of this. Mark my words." Then he disappeared behind the curtain, the heavy fabric swinging shut behind him. The studio fell into complete, dead silence. No one clapped. No one whispered. People sat frozen in their seats, eyes wide, mouths slightly open. The air felt thick and heavy, like everyone was still trying to process what they had just witnessed. Jimmy turned slowly to face the camera directly. His expression was calm and serious. He looked straight into the lens and said simply, "People deserve to know the truth." That was it. No jokes, no extra comments, just those 8 quiet words. Then he gave a small nod as the studio lights stayed bright on his face. The cameras cut to a final wide shot as Trump stormed down the backstage hallway. His face was still flushed bright red, chest rising and falling fast as he breathed hard. Security and staff stepped back quickly to give him space. The camera slowly zoomed in on his right hand, clenched so tight the knuckles were pure white, veins popping. He kept walking without looking back, shoulders rigid, every step full of fury. That image burned into the screen. The President of the United States storming off live television, fist tight with rage, breathing like he just fought a war. It was a moment no one who watched it would ever forget.